So, exit strategies. Pretty simple. Do nothing, sell off the pieces, leave it to the future generations without planning. I'll give you a couple examples. We've talked about them in the past. Selling to a third party and an IPO. IPOs are few and far between. Anybody who's talking about an IPO doesn't know what they're talking about. I've been through it. I've taken a company public back in the early 90s. Extremely difficult. And even then, when it was much more popular and easy to do. Today, we have Sarbanes-Oxley and reporting requirements for public companies that make it virtually impossible for somebody who has never done it before to do it after an IPO. So usually you have to bring in a whole team of professional management to get to an IPO because they will have to have done it before. If they haven't done it before, they won't be able to learn on the job successfully, believe me. So, and they're just fewer and further between. You're not going to see as many of them in today's environment. But when they do happen, it can be a tremendous opportunity. Let it die. The founder is the business, unless you can sell off pieces, and you may need a manager to wind it down. I have a situation like that where the founder died. The wife took over. She didn't know what she was doing, and she's run the business into the ground. We're going to give her, hopefully, an employment contract to keep her around for a couple of years, and that's it. It's unfortunate, but it's not uncommon. Better is to sell off the pieces if you have pieces to sell. If you're a government contractor, you might be able to sell off your contracts, but you're not going to get a heck of a lot for it unless there's some real good people that you can move with the contract to perform on the contract. But if you have inventory, like in a jewelry store, or if you have machinery and equipment, like in an equipment rental business, you'll attract more value for pieces of the business. But there's no goodwill when you're selling off the pieces. There's no going concern value, which generates that multiple, that gap, that additional payout. I talked about Joe Robbie in the past. I read an article in Sports Illustrated not too long ago about him because I was really curious really what happened with this guy. He was the owner of the Miami Dolphins and had a real estate empire in Miami. And it was even more dysfunctional than I thought. He had 11 children. One of his children he left in charge of the Dolphins. The guy was a pot smoker and he was a heavy drinker. He would show up in bare feet at these management events and wearing shorts and stoned out of his mind. It was really, really awful. But the real bad part about Joe Robbie is that he left the entire estate with no estate planning. He just left his estate to his family. They were fighting over it, and in the end the IRS got all the money because they had to sell the Miami Dolphins and they had to sell the Orange Bowl, which they had a piece of ownership in. They had to sell all that off. They got barely enough money to pay the IRS, and the family, each of the members of the family were left with about $3 million afterwards, which was devastatingly horrible. And to this day, there's a Joe Robbie Stadium, but it's a small soccerplex that seats 1,000 people, which one of his daughters set up in his honor. And that was it. Pretty sad. Dr. X, I had a situation where I had a doctor. He was, I think I told you this story too. Was getting ready to enter in a postnuptial agreement with his soon-to-be ex-wife, but he never got divorced. And he was dating one of his office workers. Ended up living with her, had a child with her, and then he died at the age of 51. And he had a significant amount of assets, probably $5–6 million of assets, and $3 million of insurance. But the soon-to-be ex-wife, who never became his ex-wife, made sure that she was listed as the beneficiary on insurance policies. So she got all the insurance, and we also found out that he hadn't paid his income taxes for the last 2 years because his ex-wife used to handle all the tax payments and all the accounting, and when she was sort of pushed aside in favor of this young paramour, none of the taxes got paid. So after interest and penalties, we ended up wiping out the estate. And his baby daughter, which was the fourth of his 4 children, one, the baby daughter with the paramour, got nothing out of the estate. So, plan, do the planning. And then of course Prince, recently in the last week or so, the court decided that 6 of his siblings, half-siblings, would be entitled to receive his total estate, which is valued upwards of $300 million because of all the music royalties projected into the future. They haven't talked about the estate tax yet. That means it's going to have to be sold to get liquidity to pay the estate tax, which is 40%. And the buyers out there know what the situation is, so they're going to not pay full fair market value necessarily for the royalties to his music. So there's going to be a tension there, much like Joe Robbie, without any planning, with no will. The IRS definitely will. If you do the planning and you have a management succession plan like we talked about last time, if you have a professional management team and you do your advanced planning using all the techniques and tools that we talked about, you're going to be very successful. You can transition wealth and transition ownership, but still keep some control. But as I said, real business succession planning results in ultimate transfer of control too. You cannot accomplish all of it without transferring the control. We talked about who we're going to sell it to: strategic buyer, private equity management, ESOP. Those are all alternatives, all available. So you need a good salesperson to sell a business. Maybe it's the investment banker, maybe it's your business broker, maybe it's you. Because if you're selling your business, you'd better be a good salesperson. The timing of getting ready to sell your business, give yourself enough time. If you all of a sudden decide, I want to sell my business, and then you start trying to market the business without cleaning your house up, you're going to run into all kinds of problems at the time of the sale. So give yourself time. A year is just a rule of thumb. And get your team members assembled. And again, I've had people come in and meet with me separately. Then they'll go meet with the investment banker. Then I'm on my way to meet the investment banker. I want to meet with you. Then I'm going to meet with the CPA after that. My preferred way of doing it is put everybody around the darn table and let's talk it out. Because 3 minds or 4 minds are better than 1. And you may not hear everything that everybody is saying, and your filter may cut out some really important information. So getting the team assembled, present together is really important. And then set the expectations of those who are going to participate in the sale. The expectation should be it's going to be a huge time suck. What do I mean? It's going to take a lot of time. I'm working with a client who's been trying to sell the company for 9 months now to the same buyer. It's just one issue after another, and he said to me yesterday, I can't spend any more time on this. And I said, you have to if you want to sell the business. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to deal with this. And if the buyer's willing to continue to talk to you after all this time, you're going to need to be patient. But I've got to work on this contract and this proposal. I've got a business to run. I said, I understand that. That's why it's probably a good idea that you may have built a second tier of management to help you with this. But you don't have it, fine. We're getting a decent price for the business. Stick to it. So it is a huge time suck. So we want to clean up. We want to engage in good housekeeping.